Okay, well, congratulations on renting the replica 1969 Shelby Cobra. I'm going to walk through a few of the things that make it different from a typical car you'd be used to today. So first of all, you'll notice if you look at the dash, there's no keys. So in order to start the car, there's 3 steps. One, back here above the fire extinguisher, there's a battery cutoff. And this key can be taken with you when you leave the vehicle. And when it's disengaged, the battery is disconnected from the vehicle. So turning that over will cause the battery to become engaged. And now, if you look, you can see there's voltage on the voltage indicator. It should say there's somewhere between 12 and 13 volts. So to start the car, you flip up the switch. This is essentially your typical ignition circuit. It starts the fuel pump and it provides electricity for the spark plugs. And then the start button will actually crank the engine over. Turning it off is as simple as dropping the switch back down. Now, some of the other things to notice with this are that you have a switch here for show lights. That turns on lights in the engine compartment and under the car, as well as in the foot boxes, so that you can, say, look at your wallet or in your purse at night. There's the high beam, low beam selector. Pushing this in or out will toggle between high and low beams. You have your emergency flasher switch. The headlight switch is a little bit different also. Switching it up will turn the headlights on. Switching it all the way down will turn the fog lights on. And leaving it in the middle will have the lights off. So just remember, if it's all the way down, you can still accidentally drain the battery when you walk away from the car. Unless you take the key with you, which will disconnect the battery from the vehicle, and that would also totally turn off the lights. You have your ignition switch and your starter button. The brake is something that's also different. Because it's difficult to reach the emergency brake in this car, this brake will essentially hold the brake pedal down for you while it's engaged. So if you flip it up and step on the brake pedal will stay down and keep pushing on the brakes for you. It's really handy when you're trying to park on a hill or any situation where you would need to have the brake and the gas at the same time. Auxiliary heater blows hot air on your feet. This fan, it's just really for show. It doesn't actually cool the car down. There's a thermostatically controlled fan that's very effective at controlling the temperature. Radio, if you flip the radio switch up, now push the power button on the radio, then the radio will turn on. It takes both the switch and turning the power on down here. Now, I mentioned that the emergency brake was a little bit hard to reach, and that's true. It's down just to the left of the driver's seat, and you even need to almost slide the seat back, or that is to say, if the seat is in a far forward position for a shorter driver, then you won't be able to pull up the parking brake. However, it's a Fiero-style parking brake, so it's actually able to be engaged and then have the handle drop back down without disengaging the parking brake. To disengage the parking brake, you need to pull the handle up, then push the button in, lower it back down. Now the parking brake is disengaged. Another thing that's not typical about this vehicle are the seat belts. So it has a 4-point harness with 2 shoulder straps and 2 waist straps. They are a racing system, so they're very effective and they're very safe, but often people find them counterintuitive to operate. The way they operate is you take the tongues on the two, or the loops on the two shoulder straps, you put them together, and then the tongue goes through those. I'll set the camera down for a second and push it through so you can see how the tongue goes through the two loops. Okay, with the tongue through the two loops, then you have the other waist strap. It actually has a mouth and a hook in it. So the tongue needs to go into the mouth, and then the hook grabs the tongue. And there's ball detents in this, so you want to pull this lever back until it clicks. And then once it clicks and it's locked, you have all four harness components connected. It's very secure, very safe. To release it, you just pull the hook, and then they all disconnect, and you're able to exit. When you do remove the shoulder straps, be very careful not to flip them over and cause them to come back and hit the paint. It's very easy to chip or damage the paint in that way. If you don't want the shoulder straps, you can carefully tuck them behind the seat, and that's fine. But don't flip them up over so that they nick the paint. Also, watch out for the waist strap. Don't have it fall down and be in a position like this where it's going to block the door and chip the paint. The door is closed just with a good firm close, but to open the doors, there's a different hardware than you would typically find, and there's this round ball on the door handle hardware. You pull that ball forward, and that allows the door to open. That's how the door operates. Getting in and out of the car is a little bit tricky because it's quite small. And there's also a hot exhaust pipe right where your foot goes. We've installed this heat shield, which is very effective. Prior to this, it was pretty easy to get a nasty burn on your ankle getting in and out of the car. But the real way to avoid getting burned and just looking silly when you get in and out of a Cobra is to actually step into the Cobra and then lower yourself down once you're in. So don't put your bottom into the seat first. That's what you would typically do in a car. You kind of back into the car and sit down. That's not what you would want to do. Instead, what you'd want to do is put one hand on the back of the seat, step into the vehicle, supporting yourself from the back of the seat, and then you lower your body down into the seat. And this way, your legs aren't getting bound up, especially taller drivers. If they sit in with their bottom first and one leg is out, many drivers can't actually get their foot up over the threshold of the door. Their legs are too long. I'm a little bit shorter, so I can just barely make it, but yeah, it looks much smoother if you just stand up and then stand in the passenger space and lower your body down. So now another thing is the seats sliding forward and back. There is an adjustability on the seat. It's a piece of 1960s hardware, so it's not perfect, but slide it to the side and then the seat can go forward and backwards. But you want to make sure that it actually gets back into one of its locking holes. There's a rail with a series of holes in it, and this guy is supposed to lock in. So if you slide the seat forward, make sure that you get to a point where you can get that lever back into a hole, and then the seat will be locked. If it doesn't slide back, you might go step on the brake and find that the seat slides away from the pedals and you can't reach the pedals anymore. That can be a disconcerting experience. So that's how the seat adjustment works. Getting out is basically the same as getting in. Go ahead and stand up in the vehicle and then step out once you're standing. So the motor is it's tuned well and it's running well, but it doesn't have fuel injection. It doesn't automatically compensate for lower octane fuels below 91. So you want to put premium fuel, and the fuel is accessed here. Just unscrew the cap and put gas in like you would in your normal car. This is not tethered to the vehicle, so don't leave it on the fuel pump and walk away. That's how you fill it. So just go ahead and refill it before you bring it back. And every once in a while, some of the gauges will stick. So if you see that you filled it, but the gauge is not going up, give it a tap, and they are vintage gauges, so they can stick every once in a while. But other than that, it drives pretty much like a normal car. Power steering makes it very easy to steer. The clutch is very light for the size of the motor. The brakes are very strong. They're not power assist brakes, so you do have to give the pedal a firm push, but they will slow the car very quickly if you do give them a good amount of force. It does not have anti-lock brakes, so it's possible to lock up the brakes if you step on the pedal hard enough. So be conscientious of that and recognize that it is in many ways a classic vehicle that doesn't have some of those safety features of a modern car. The trunk just lifts up. There are no rods or struts that hold it in place. So we have a stick, and you can put that stick in and use that to hold the trunk up. So it's some very high-tech stuff right there. And that's about it for the 69 Shelby Cobra replica. We hope that you have a wonderful time, drive safe, and we'll look forward to seeing you when you come back.